Hello, everyone. So today is day 25 of my vlog journey. It's probably closer to day 31, 32 of the process, but sometimes I needed downtime, and that's okay. I love that. So this week has been interesting. Um, One of the things I was dealing with was um, some aggressive issues with one of my sons. And I was trying to put it to him in terms that would make sense to him. And so he's young, he's a fan of Pokemon. And so I asked him to tell me about the elements of the different characters in Pokemon. And I had him start with fire and then move to water. And said, okay, well, these are your fire Pokemon. They can do this, they can do that, they can do the other. And these are your waters. They can do this, they can do that. But every element has a weakness. There's something that it is weak against or cannot fight, cannot destroy. And so I talked to him about fire and said, okay, what is fire's weakness? And he got it right off the bat. And smart boy. And he said, water. I said, yes, yes, exactly. Like, is there any way that water doesn't beat fire? Now, he knows nothing about electrical fires, and I wasn't going to go into that. But I said, no, water always beats fire. And I said, yep, pretty much always. And I said, well, when you're in your angry mode, or for that matter, when I'm in my angry mode, it's a lot like being on fire. And fire is very powerful, but it's also very destructive. It doesn't leave anything positive in its wake. It pretty much just destroys whatever it gets a hold of to the point where you can't really use it anymore. And so I did this demonstration with him, and I actually took some pieces of paper over the sink, lit them on fire, and then let him watch it destroy this paper. And then how quickly that same fire that was destroying the paper was put out via water. And I think the visual helped him to understand the concept. Now it's simply a matter of practicing our relaxing techniques, practicing our breathing, working on incorporating a form of meditation for him, actually for both of my boys, on a regular basis so that they can more readily get themselves to the water state and calm down that fire that's inside them. And I found that that's been helping me, and my hope is that it will help them as well. But I noticed something right after my birthday had passed. And, as I usually do on the occasion of my birthday, I'll look back, I'll reflect, I'll see what the last year has brought. And this past year has brought quite a lot, both good and very bad. But overall, I definitely say I've progressed. And to borrow the one of the main teaching metaphors of Kyle's book as well as his teachings, the whereas the example that I gave my son was fire versus water. The example that Kyle uses is ice versus water. And I was thinking about it and going back through some of my science, textbooks and whatnot. And there really is no concept of ice or fire without water. Um, Fire does become more powerful in very dry or very arid climates. But even then, it still draws on some of the water that's in the environment. And so when I thought through that, I went, okay, so there's the overextension of water, which is that ice form. So the water has created enough coldness that it's then taken this free flowing water form and made it hard. And then there's the under expression of water where so much of it has been drawn out that it's now contributing to its nemesis, fire. And so when I thought through that, I was like, okay, so it's really more a matter of being balanced on that spectrum as opposed to one versus the other. And for some reason, putting it into that perspective really kind of helped me, because if it's just a either or, then meeting that goal is really just a success or failure. And it becomes very hard to gauge progress when all you have is a success or failure metric. But when you're looking at it from a spectrum, and you're saying, okay, am I keeping myself within the boundaries that I want? And then as I go forward, am I keeping myself in kind of a tighter cluster to where I'm staying mostly free-flowing water all the time, or 80% of the time, or something like that? It becomes more tangible. It becomes easier to grasp and, keep a hold of. And so I've started looking at it in that way. But a couple other things that came to me, and some of this is a rehash of some of the things that I've said earlier this week, around looking at old situations with new eyes. Looking at the way things have happened in the past and the way I've handled them in the past, and then looking at those same things that happen now and how I handle them now. And when I go back to that fire to ice spectrum, I see that I'm a lot closer into that middle now. I'm a lot closer to that free-flowing water state now, and that is, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's amazing to see that when I look back at just a year ago and how easily I could have swung to one extreme or the other. But now I find myself more often in the middle. I'm still not nowhere near 100%. I still have my completely close up, and I still have my fly off the handle. But it's fewer. It's far between. I find that with the practices that I'm doing now, it's a lot easier for me to stay in that middle, or to bring myself back to the middle if I find myself going one way or the other. So I can definitely say, in looking at that and in seeing where I am now, that there is progress. I can also say that there's still progress to go. It's interesting. So I took my kids to a science museum today. There's a great museum by us called the Museum of Life and Science. And one of the things that they have, which is also one of the reasons why I wanted to go, is they have a butterfly sanctuary. And with all of the talk of evolution and transformation and butterflies, I thought that just spending some time and communing with butterflies, looking through their various stages, seeing them in their natural habitat, seeing their flight, seeing their existence, seeing the peacefulness of their existence, even when there's tons of people going through their environment, they still have a very serene life. And just sitting on a bench in the middle of the observatory and having these butterflies fly all around. They even had some birds in the observatory. And then they had a segment where there were caterpillars that were going through their cocoon or pupa stage, and some that had just recently gotten out of the pupa stage. And the one thing that I noticed that I hadn't paid attention to before in this butterfly evolution is we talk so much about getting out of your cocoon, getting out of your cocoon, getting out of your cocoon. And I learned something today because I just hadn't thought of it. But in the cocoon or in the pupa, as the caterpillar is basically liquefying in order to evolve into the butterfly, as the butterfly makes its way out of the cocoon, it still has some of that fluid, some of that material on it. It still has residuals of the old story on it. And so, even when it gets out of that cocoon, it will still hold on and live off of that cocoon for a couple of days to let the material get off of its wings. And when I saw that, I felt a click. Like something just really spoke to either where I'm at now or where I'm headed very soon. And that this is what you're going through. This is what this month is bringing you. Is that you still have some residue of the old story that you need to let fall off. You need to let it dry up and crust off. You need to let that no longer be a part of you, no longer be attached to you, no longer be something you identify with, so that when you spread your wings and fly, it's all new story. It's all new story. None of the old drama, none of the old hurt, none of the old identification. Just you. So, I don't know what that particular stage is called. I may look it up later. But there's something really encouraging to think that I might be at that stage right now. I can't say for certain. I haven't been able to predict any of this transformation journey. But if so, I won't say that it made all the hell that I've gone through in the last year worth it. I won't say that. But I will say it's a major relief to think that I may have come far enough. I may have come to the point where I can completely get rid of that old story and just fly around in my new self. God, I hope that's true. I don't know if it's true, but God, I hope it is. Because that cocoon process, whoo, Lord. Can't say I've ever had can't say I had ever had the experience of liquefying my past before, but yeah, I think that's probably the best metaphor for what's been going on this past 12 to 18 months. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm holding on for now to see if this is the piece and shed off some of those last pieces of the old story and move forward completely in my new story. And it's interesting that in reaching this point, I've come to some conclusions that I feel comfortable with for the first time in my life. I'm feeling more and more and more comfortable with who I am, and more importantly, who I'm not. What are the things that make me, whether this larger human society appreciates them or not? And what are the things that are not a part of me, whether this larger human society expects them to be from me or not. And when I accepted it, when I had that moment of going inside and saying, would you give back your Nobel Prize because your laundry wasn't done? Would you give back the community that you've created all because you didn't wake up at 5 a.m.? Would you give back the family and friends and good times had all because you didn't speak softly? Hell no. Hell no. I'm not giving away any of my future apologizing for the things that I'm not. I'm quite happy with the things that I'm not. I'm quite happy with the things that I am. There are certain things I'd like to change for myself just for my own benefit, for my own highest good. You know what? The things that I'm not interested in changing, the things that just simply are not important to me or I'm not interested in, I am done apologizing for that shit. I am done hiding it, and I'm done pretending it doesn't exist. You know what? This is me in all of my butterfly splendor. And if my wings are red, then they're not blue. And I'm not ashamed that they're not blue. I am who I am and who I was made to be. And you can enjoy the beauty of me or not. But if you don't enjoy the beauty of me, that's fine. I hope you find someone you do. But I'm not changing for you. Those days are over. Those days are over. In this day, I am who I am. I embrace that. I make no apology for that. And I welcome into my life anybody who also wants to embrace what I am. There's still more questions, fear not. I don't claim to have all the answers now or anytime soon. So I'm going to keep asking the questions. I'm going to keep praying that the universe will continue to send me answers. And hopefully, as I ask those questions and maybe get some answers, I'll share them with you as well. I hope you have a great day. God bless.